Hello and good afternoon, friends. Today I want to talk to you about the pros and cons of owning a house on a septic system. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So septic systems are very common, right? You'll see them everywhere. That public sewer doesn't exist. Obvious, right? Makes perfect sense. But what most people don't realize is that public sewer is actually kind of rare in relation to most of the homes once you start getting beyond really densely populated areas. For example, in Baltimore, there's houses on well and septic within 15 minutes of the city, believe it or not. It happens all the time. So usually, if you're looking to purchase a home that's not going to be in the city directly, your kind of options are limited to septic and well, maybe, specifically. The reason for this is going to be because of how expensive it is for the city, the county, township, whatever your local government you have, how expensive it is for them to install it, maintain it, and just have anybody operating the wastewater treatment plant. Because of all of this, again, now you have to deal with your wastewater somehow. So that's where a septic system comes into play. And they come in a variety of shapes and sizes, which we've covered multiple times on this channel, but the most common is going to be an anaerobic, gravity-fed tank to drain fields. Very simple. When you're looking at these homes, it really kind of comes down to the age of the house. So we'll start with the bad, and then we'll work our way to the good. It's, in my opinion, the best way to handle things. The worst thing about septic systems is that it is entirely your problem, right? All of it. The pipes, the tank itself, the solids, the baffles, the drain fields, the absorption system, plants, trees, whatever. It's all your issue. On public sewer, really, once you get to the sidewalk or the road, depending on how your county divides it, all the piping up to that point is yours, and beyond it, it is the city's. So if you have a whole big old chunk of fat in the sewer line on the city side, doesn't matter. Now, it might back up for you, but they're the ones who have to go about fixing it. With a septic system, everything's on your property. So let's just say that we stick with this grease and fat problem. Well, if you have a clog in the main line between the house and the tank, okay, the plumber comes, they push that debris out. Well, now that debris in the tank. All right, well, let's just say that it works its way out of the tank. Now it works its way into the drain fields. So whatever that debris is, it stays in the system until you vacuum it out using the pump truck. So if you're putting stuff in the system that shouldn't belong in the system, that's where you can kind of run into a lot more problems. With public sewer, the rules are basically the exact same. It's just the consequences are a little bit different, right? So for septic, you should only have human waste and toilet paper. If it's not one of those two things, if it's stretchy, if it it's kind of grease, or if it's non-organic, you're going to run into some problems. With public, nobody ever cares, right? Because once they push it to the road, it's the county's problem, it's the city's problem. Even though our taxes and our water bill and all that stuff go towards dealing with those problems, you are not, as an individual, directly paying for it as much. Whereas with a septic system, you're responsible for all of it. I can't stress that enough. With that responsibility comes cost. So the big issue with a septic system compared to public sewer is the upfront cost is usually pretty much higher, right? Now, if you have a traditional anaerobic gravity-fed system, normal soil, normal conditions, yeah, the cost is going to be roughly about the same. Usually, it's a full septic system, tank, drain fields, etc. In our area is about $15,000 to $20,000. If you buy a house near water or a stream, or even if you've got really bad soil, a septic system can get way more expensive than that $15,000 to $20,000 mark. Usually you can see it get anywhere from 40 to, I've seen on some multi-million-dollar homes, so not usual like context, but I've seen it get up to $115,000 for residential. That particular $115,000 property or system was on a property that was literally spitting distance to the Chesapeake Bay. So they were right on the water, so they had a very complicated set of circumstances that they had to address in order to have a functional septic system. With public sewer, you're not really paying that same kind of volume. Now, if, for example, you have a house that's really far away from the main sewer line for the county, yeah, of course you're going to end up paying more. But usually in our area, you'll see sewer lines go anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000, give or take. If you're in Baltimore City, it'll be a little bit more expensive, and that's just because of the accessory things you have to do. In the city, a lot of times they'll actually have the sewer line in the alleyway or underneath the concrete. Maybe it's under asphalt. And so now you not only have to cut all that up, but now you also have to put it back when you get done. So that can increase the cost. But usually it ends up being that septic's slightly more expensive up front. In my opinion, the last most annoying thing that's a con for septic systems is you have to maintain it, right? With public sewer, you don't really have to worry about that as much. You just kind of exist. But with septic systems, you have to make sure you get it pumped out regularly. You got to make sure somebody's looking at it from time to time, making sure that everything's doing what it's supposed to do. Things aren't backing up. Things aren't broken. Like, you have baffles. You got to make sure those baffles are there. You'd be shocked how often I come across a tank that's missing a baffle. Better yet, when's the last time you looked to see if your baffles are in place and what condition are they in? We've covered in the past what the 3 most common issues that you'll come across are, but I think that when it comes to septic systems, if you're usually in the 20-year or less timeline as far as when it was put in, you're pretty safe. Like, the odds of you running into any issues are pretty low. Once you get beyond 20 years, that's where it starts getting a little bit dicey. The reason for this is that septic systems generally last 30 to 40 years. That's going to be mostly the drain fields, right? The tanks, at least in our area, are usually going to go somewhere between 60 to 80 years. The most common defect I find with these tanks is that the mid-seam starts to leak, and it's just easier and cheaper to replace the tank than it is to worry about trying to patch the tank and having it leak 6 months later and then do it again and then keep doing that over and over. Most people just go ahead and replace the tank. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of a septic system. So we know that it costs more up front to pay for a septic tank than it does for public sewer. But the thing with public sewer is you are going to have an ongoing maintenance cost for the county every single month of every single year for the entirety that house exists on that property. So with a septic system, yeah, you might pay $20,000, but in 30 years, all you're paying is the pump out every now and again. All right, so $300 every 5 years. That's not that bad. Whereas with sewer, maybe you're paying $40 a month. All right, so that's going to be putting you between $400 and $500 every single year. So after 10 years, now you're at $4,000 or $5,000 on top, right? So yeah, you might have saved a little bit of money with having sewer installed, but after 5-10 years, now you've got the same cost as the septic, and the septic still got another 30 plus years to go. The septic systems, usually all you're going to do is pump it out. As long as you're not putting anything else beyond human waste and toilet paper, there's not much that you should really have to worry about. With sewer, all right, now you put it in, you pay your monthly bill, but you still have the same defects that can pop up. Clogs, breaks, roots, anything like that. Maybe you're putting in a fence. The fence guy doesn't know where your sewer line is, puts an auger right through the pipe, and guess what? Now your pipe's broken. To me, the biggest benefit of septic systems is that you can go anywhere with it, right? Now, that depends on the soil, and as long as your soil works and is good to go, but you're able to have a more spread out lifestyle. You can be a little bit further away from people, and you can have whatever house you want. If you only want public sewer, that really limits the type of home you can have, where you can have it, and how much land you're gonna have. At least in our area, you're not really going to find that many properties that are 2 to 3 plus acres with public sewer. They exist, they're around, but they're very far and few between. Public sewer is very expensive for the county to build, maintain, and operate, so a lot of times you're going to have enough taxes in the area to justify that expense, especially with how much they charge for the sewer bills. Most places, at least in our area, they charge based on the water into the house, not the water out of the house. So like, for example, Anne Arundel County will charge you a sewer bill based off of how much water you use in the home, assuming that water will also be going through the waste. That's why it's not super common to see counties and towns and communities that have private well and public sewer. It's a little bit harder for them to actually monitor and come up with an accurate billing. There are county or areas in Frederick County that do that, and the way that they kind of deal with that situation is they just flat rate everybody. So everybody's going to pay $60 a month, regardless of how much water goes through that sewer line. Is that a good thing for the county? Probably not, but it does make budgeting a little bit easier because you'll know exactly how much water or how much your sewer bill is going to be every single month. In my opinion, if you have a private sewer system, such as a septic system, you're basically in the long run always going to save money compared to the people on public. And the reason why is the county will always increase the cost of your sewer bill. It's how it works. All right, so if we put in a septic tank, $20,000, 30 years goes by, inflation's going to make that $20,000 way cheaper than the cost that would be during that 30-year period in the future. With sewer, that price just continues to go up and up and up every single month, all the time, forever. You basically, as long as you live in that house long enough, you're going to make money, or theoretic money, right? The benefit, in my opinion, way outweighs the con entirely. Some people are scared of septic, and I don't blame them. That's why I want to have these conversations and try to spread the awareness of how these systems work and make it to where people aren't as afraid of dealing with these systems. In my opinion, it's the unknown that spooks a lot of people. And really, with septic systems, there's not that much of a difference between it and public beyond, you just have to be a little bit more conscious of what you're doing. If you're just putting whatever you want down the toilet, even on public, you're still going to run into a problem. So you got to be conscious and careful of what you're doing. If you got any value out of this, hit that like button, hit subscribe. I have more videos posted every day on the world of well and septic. I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow.